by the power of Grayskull.
On the half shell, they're the heroes for. In this day and age, who could ask for more?
Hello, Bots and Books fans, this is Scorp1701, and tonight I am super excited to bring to you one of the figures in the brand new Turtles of Grayskull line. This is the awesome crossover between Masters of the Universe and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, in which the Turtles get sucked into Eternia somehow, and there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not exactly sure the main plot points, but I'm sure we'll figure it out, because like the old Masters of the Universe figures, each of these come with a cool little comic book that kind of tells you what's going on, but we'll get into that a little later. First off, let's take a look at this packaging. Now, this packaging is very reminiscent of the Masters of the Universe origin figures that are out on the shelves right now as well. You have a blister card, and you have the figure in a clamshell on the front of the card, and it looks great. So, taking a closer look at the card itself, you have He-Man here, Leonardo here, Turtles of Grayskull, Leonardo, Heroic Ninja Turtle Leader. You have some cool sewer pipes up here into an explosion of what looks like maybe mutagen and green lights and purple lights. Normally, on the Masters of the Universe cards, it was like red meteorites or something going on, but that is really cool. They've kind of simulated that here. You have Leonardo in the clamshell here on the front. You have Masters of the Universe. You have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You have Mattel down here on the bottom right. Coming to the back of the card, you have Masters of the Universe up here top left. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles here. You have an awesome piece of artwork with Leonardo versus the Shredder. I'm going to zoom in so we can take a look at that. You see Grayskull in the background there. That is so cool. Includes a comic book, and then scrolling down a little bit, you do get a little read-up of what the heck is going on here, so you could pause that, read to your heart's content of what in the world is going on, and then we can move down. We see that Leonardo comes with a sword that can be broken into two parts. You can see the other figures in this wave: Leonardo, He-Man, Donatello, and Man-at-Arms. That is awesome. Coming back down, you got some credits for the box and a barcode, and that is pretty much the packaging for Leonardo. But I do not want to see Leonardo in this packaging. I know you don't. So let's get him out and see how cool this Masters of the Universe turtle really is. And here we have Leonardo out of the packaging, and Leonardo stands approximately 6 inches tall. He comes with a very large sword, a armor piece. He comes with a mini comic that has a lot of cool artwork and story, and he comes with this neat little schematic about how some of his parts, like the Masters of the Universe Origins figures, can come apart, or you could switch and swap them. So yeah, that's pretty neat. I guess if you eventually take them all off, you got a pile of turtle parts. But we'll take a look at all of that in just a moment. But first off, I want to take a look at Leonardo himself. And coming real close in on Leonardo's head, this is a beautifully molded Ninja Turtle head. It is green, it is flat on the top, it extends out to the cheeks like all Ninja Turtle heads usually do. You have a nice mouth line right here. It opens up a little bit to the left side here, and you got some teeth sticking out there. Leonardo's headband and mask is blue, and you have some very nice pearlescent eyes poking out of there. That is just awesome. Coming around to the back of the head, you can see that the headband is a little bit exaggerated. It does go out to about 2 to 3 inches. Let's zoom out just a little bit. Has a nice knot right here at the top. That is cool. Coming back around to the front. Now, I did go ahead and take off Leonardo's armor. We will take a look at the armor bits and accessories, but for the most part, I think in a few years, when you see this figure, this may be what you find in yard sales and flea markets and stuff like that, because, you know, it's one of those things where accessories get lost, and, you know, you never can tell what you're gonna be left with. But this is your basic figure, and you can see he is basically green. Truthfully, if I was to look at this figure and didn't know any better, I would say that this might be a Battletoad. They are creating Battletoad figures in the market these days, and that would again be my first thought. But I know he's not a toad, he's a turtle. So taking a look, his arms nice and green, got a lot of muscle detail in there, very Master of the Universe inspired. You have some bracers here on both arms. They're silver. Got some nodules in there. It looks cool. Coming down to his 3-fingered hand. And that is nice. His chest is broken up into different sections with a nice yellow for the turtle shell on the front side. He does have a nice belt with some bushy shorts. That is cool. Nice green legs, muscle detail in there. Neat little flap that kind of hides the knee joint, but we'll take a look at that in articulation. And that comes down to some kind of half boots. The top is brown and you got some nice blue sashes here. That is cool. And coming down to some open two-toed feet. I like that. On the bottom of the feet, you do get a little bit of copyright detail and some peg holes if you want to pose him somewhere. Coming to the back of the figure, it is really neat. He does have a shell that is molded on here. It is green. It's just the same color as the body. Now, there is a second shell that he could use as a shield, and it is actually a proper brown color, which I wouldn't have minded if this was brown, but it's not. It's something that they wanted to give us in case. He is using his shield, which we'll get into again in accessories. He does have some copyright material written on the top of the shell here, and then at the bottom of the shell here. And then other than that, there is nothing else on the back that you wouldn't expect. So yeah, as a basic figure, I think this looks great. If I didn't even have the armor parts, I think this would still be a really cool looking Leonardo. All right, moving on. Jumping into articulation, starting at the head. The head can go around 360 degrees. It can wiggle to the left, wiggle to the right, look down, look up. So it has got a lot of good motion there. The headband can move around as well, 360 degrees, if you want to put that in a different spot. Coming down to the arms can come up from the body and then back down. They can do 360 degrees around. You do not have a bicep rotation or anything. You do have a nice elbow bend. Just doesn't really make 90 degrees, but that's okay. That is built into a forearm rotation, 360 degrees there. Coming down to your fist, the fist can go around 360 degrees, and it's on a hinge, so it can hinge out and in, down, and up, however you want to have that. Coming to the center of the body, you do not have an ab crunch, but you do have 360 degrees waist rotation. That is nice. Coming to the legs can go up just a little bit, not much because they are really bulky. Back, not much at all, if any, and you can kind of bend them out to the side and they'll go back, but the butt gets in the way, and again, they're really bulky. Straight out to the side, there is a little more rotation there. You do get a little bit of thigh rotation left and right. Coming down to your knee bend, and this is really neat. The knee bend is hidden underneath this flap right here, so you don't really see it unless you look from the back. You can actually see it, but the front, it kind of hides it, and that's pretty neat. So the knee bend, not too good either. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of bend out of this guy because he is so bulky, but that is built into a sort of a boot cut, but it's actually more of a lower leg cut because the boot itself is on its individual hinge, and that goes around 360 degrees. Coming down to the foot, which is hinged, so it can go up a long way, down a long way, and it can rock around the world 360 degrees. And as we saw in the pictures to begin with, most of these parts are interchangeable, and you can take them off if you're so inclined. All right, that is going to be Leonardo's articulation. Moving on. And for accessories, jumping into his armor, Leonardo comes with 4 different armor parts plus a battle shell, which could double as an actual shell or a shield. And he also comes with a 5th bonus piece of armor, and this will go on his forearm. Either of the forearms work. And so, taking a look at the different armors, I will show them off as we put them on him, because that's kind of part of the fun too. Alright, so let's zoom out a little bit and find our Ninja Turtle. There he is, Leonardo. So, first off, let's take a look at this belt. It is a soft plastic and kind of rubbery. It is done in a nice blue metallic. You do have a turtle shell right here on the front. See if I can zoom in a little closer. You do get some little rivets right here, 3 of them, and then the belt just goes around, and then you got some 3 sections down here with some more rivets, and that is pretty cool. And to get the belt on, what we'll have to do is go over to Leonardo, and we are basically going to have to rip him apart. So, he will come apart right here at the midsection. And, oh my gosh, we just ripped him in 2. But that's okay, he's supposed to do that. And basically, with the shell part on the front here, it will just go right here, and then you could put this back on. But don't do that just yet. Let's take a look at this harness. And the harness is really nicely done. You have a beautiful L here for Leonardo inside this little blue frame. You got a little bit of color here. You got some straps going up to this furry part, and the straps going down here. And you have 2 holes here, which I'll get to later, and then you have a hole and a tab section, which will latch together, and that's how the armor will go on. So to get this on Leonardo, there's a couple ways you could do it. I think the easiest way is just to take him and pop his head off, because we are really dismantling this poor fellow. And then bring this here, and then you will just find this tab right here, and that will go into this port up here above the 2 holes, and then you'll get that in there. It's easier to do it like this instead of having it with the legs, because the legs will kind of get in the way, but once you get that in there, it will fall into place, and there you go. So that is cool. And then when you do that, then you can put him together like such, and then you don't have to worry about any of the armor now falling off from the chest or the belt armor. So that is pretty neat. And what you would do next, take your shell, and this is a nice little shell. It's brown. You have your belt here where Leonardo's sword can go down into, and on the inside you do have a little handhold here, which can act and use as a shield. And you have 2 little ports right here, and those will tab into your 2 circular ports here on the back of the body armor. So that will go in there. Just slide it up into this little cavity, and then line up your 2 pegs, and then it will just go right in. And that looks really nice. And that's really his actual shell, I think. That's how that is supposed to be. I don't ever intend to use this shell as a shield, because that is just weird. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and put his head back on, because that's, again, weird. So there you go. Alright, now he does have these 2 shoulder armor pieces, and they again are done in a nice soft rubbery material, and they're blue metallic, and you got a little bit of divots there and some nice broken up sections that look like a turtle shell. And you can get these on several ways. You could technically rip the arm out of the socket and then put it down, or you could just pull the hand off and then move them up the arm like such. And I think that's an easy way to do it if you don't want to rip off your turtle arm. I mean, it comes off, it's supposed to, but you know, I think whichever way, a path of least resistance. Removing a hand is a lot better than removing an arm. So that's just my opinion. Whatever works for you. And just slide both of them up the forearm and the bicep. And then place your hand. And there you go. There you have his armor. Now, I don't really like it. It kind of doesn't stay. You could push it all the way up here, and I guess it will stay because of just the friction. But when you play with it, it will eventually come down. And, that's neither here nor there. Unless they had like a hole and a tab system to plug it into the shoulders, that's just going to be what you deal with. But that's still pretty neat. I like that a lot. And then finally, you do have this forearm piece, and this can go on either of the forearms. All you need to really do is stretch out his forearm, take the hand back off, and slide it into place like such, and return the fist like such, and there you have him fully armored up. And then it looks okay. I like it. It's very bulky, I guess you could say. Yeah, not too shabby. All right. And that is going to be Leonardo's armor. Moving on. And for Leonardo's next accessory, he comes with this very nice silver sword. It is a little over 5.5 inches long, and it's done in a weird kind of coloring. The handle down here is nice and silvery matte, whereas the blade itself is a glossy, shiny kind of thing. So I'm not sure why they did it like they did, but hey, it's what they gave us, and I'm explaining it to you as best I can. The handle is really nicely done, and you see it has some nice design, a couple of wings coming out to the side, and then the nice diamond shape here. The blade is kind of curved up, and that is really neat. And coming to the other side, basically the same. And this sword can be held by Leonardo, and it can go into his sheath, and it looks really neat. There is a neat little ability of the sword to break in two, like the original power sword of He-Man and Skeletor. It comes apart, and you could have two swords, and this is really neat, and Leonardo can wield these. It does pose kind of a little issue because the handles are very thin, so whereas you can get them into his hands, if you move them around a lot, the swords will fall out because he can't really grip them because of the skinniness of the handle. But still, it looks really nice with him having two, and with a little bit of finagling, you can put them both in his sheath, and it looks like your standard Leonardo when he has both of his swords in there, and that looks cool. But if you don't like this huge sword and you have some other Leonardos laying around, you might be able to steal their swords. I took a couple Leonardo swords from other figures, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Classics figure, and he had two of these nice katana blades with the blue handles. That is neat. They were a little short in my opinion, but they fit in his sheath, and he could double wield them really nicely. I think that looked good. I think the best bet will always be the Super 7 swords, and they are nice and silver. They look real good in his hand. I think they're a really appropriate length for this character, and they fit in the back of the sheath really well, and he can hold them and double wield them, so that is cool. But I also think the Sewer Samurai Leonardo swords with the green handles also look really good, and if you're interested, here's what they look like in the sheath. So yeah, there's a lot of options you can have with this guy if you don't like the standard sword, but the standard sword is what they gave us, and it's okay. But the great thing about toys is you can always do with them what you want, and as long as he holds the accessories, they can be his. And that is Leonardo's sword, or swords, as it were. Moving on. And before I get into some comparisons, I would like to take a moment and say that this is how I plan on displaying my Leonardo. I have removed the shoulder armor and the forearm armor, and I think that gives us a very good representation of Leonardo that is both Ninja Turtle and Masters of the Universe still. You have the awesome bracers, you have the belt, which is indicative of a He-Man style belt, you have the chest harness with the L and the straps, which is also indicative of Leonardo's motif, the fuzzy boots or Masters of the Universe, and coming around to the back you have the awesome turtle shell here with a little bit of fur up here, which is pretty much He-Man stuff. So yeah, I think this is the best way to display your Turtles of Grayskull. But like always, it is your toy. You can display it how you see fit, and you don't have to listen to my advice. But anyway, coming back to comparison, the best comparison I think we could have with this guy in relations to Masters of the Universe would be the 40th anniversary He-Man. Now, this is going to be a little bigger than the He-Man in the Turtles of Grayskull line, but I think all in all, when it comes down to it, it is a very good size comparison when it comes to human / Ninja Turtle. So that is really neat, I think. And if we want to see another comparison of a similar type character, here he is with the Super 7 Lion-O. And I think these three make a really cool group. I always figured Thundercats and Masters of the Universe should be the same universe, and now we've added Ninja Turtles, so I think it looks great. Alright, moving on. And for comparison, the Turtles of Grayskull Leonardo comes in at number 5 in this particular set, beginning with the original Leonardo, the Mutant Mayhem Leonardo, the Loyal Subjects BST-AXN Leonardo, the NECA Toon Leonardo, the Super 7 Leonardo, and the NECA Movie Leonardo. So yeah, this is a great group of Leonardos, and the Grayskull Leonardo is very, very big comparatively. He comes up to the masterpiece level of Ninja Turtle, and that is really, really cool, because this guy's only like 20 bucks, and the other guys were like 50. Alright. And there is your Leonardo comparisons. Moving on. And taking a quick look at the awesome comic that comes with this figure. It is a 10-page comic. It is Turtles of Grayskull by the Power of Pizza is its title. And it has a lot of awesome artwork. And the story is pretty good. Spoiler alert. The basic gist of it is that there's a weird reading that Man-at-Arms picks up on his machines. He-Man, Moss-Man, and Ram-Man go to investigate. They don't come back. Tila and Man-at-Arms and Roboto go searching for them. A few days later, they come across the Ninja Turtles. They fight Mouse Jaw. The Turtles tell them about how they got there. Man-at-Arms gives the Turtles cool armor, and then we come back to Skeletor has teamed up with Krang, and we find that He-Man has been mutated. So, this is just the first part, and you can get the first part of this series with any of these figures. Alright, and that is the comic. Moving on. And this has been the Mattel Turtles of Grayskull Leonardo, the very cool crossover between Masters of the Universe and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And as bizarre as it seems, I think with the good story that they are starting off with, it's gonna work. The character designs are really neat. I love the figures. This Leonardo was really fun to play with. I think they nailed the amalgam between Ninja Turtles and Masters of the Universe by putting in classic elements of both designs of the franchise figures and they came out with a very cool product. Leonardo's sculpt and mold is very indicative of a standard Masters of the Universe figure, with the boots and the bracers and the chest harness and the shaggy shorts, but he still retains elements of Leonardo. The shell that's molded in on the back is kind of creepy still, but the shield shell is really good, and that's what I'll always use as his actual shell. The articulation is really good. I like all the moving parts. I think the knees were really cool, how they hid the joint with that little flap, and it's just very articulate. There's not really much you can't do that you might want to do with this. I really like the 360-degree waist rotation. Most Ninja Turtles, you don't get that because the middle section is basically one piece and the shell will prevent it from actually going around. But this did it really well, and I really like it. So nothing but good things to say about this figure. I think this is going to be a hit of a toy line. It is hitting the shelves right now. If you're looking for it, you can find it online or at your local Target stores. It will run anywhere between $20 to $25, depending on where you find it. And it's going to be tough to find, I can guarantee you, because like I said, this is an awesome toy line. The story is starting off pretty good, and it's just going to be one of those really weird, fun things to have. So if you find them, I recommend picking one or two up if you like the characters and if this is something that you're interested in. So will I pick the rest of these up? I don't know. Maybe if I see them in the store again, I'll at least grab Donatello and probably get a full set of Turtles at least. If not, cherry pick the rest of the line. So I have to wait and see. So that's it, guys. That is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, keep playing.